And I'm very excited to speak with you all again today. Today we are going to be talking about phonemic awareness, and I'm going to be sharing 5 strategies for phonemic awareness practice in your classroom. This is definitely, I said it a bunch because it's that important, a skill that we need to be ensuring our pre-readers and young readers are working on and mastering so that they can be successful readers, even beyond their time with us if we're like in a kindergarten classroom or pre-K or something like that. So that is where we are today. If you are looking for more information on other areas of phonological awareness, because phonemic awareness is a subset of phonological awareness, I have done several lives on that. You can find that if you're watching on Facebook, on my Facebook page. You can also find replays on YouTube if you prefer to watch there. So, roadmap for today. We are going to be talking about what phonemic awareness is. We're going to go over kind of a quick definition of that so we're all on the same page. We will go through the 5 actual strategies that I have to share with you today. It's actually more than 5 because I have issues with narrowing things down and I just want to share a lot. So you're getting more than 5 today, so stick with me. And then I've got a special announcement at the end. And yeah, there's more than one of those too because, again, problems with narrowing things down. And I just want to share a lot with y'all, so we're going to do it. So what is phonemic awareness? Phonemic awareness is the most complex skill that falls on the phonological awareness continuum, and it involves the phonemes, or the actual sounds that make up words. So because we are still talking about, I'm trying to see if there's a little bit of a lag. I think there is. Let me see if I can close some things. And hopefully that will help. Hang on with me for just one moment, friends. I want to make sure that what you're watching is not choppy because nobody likes poor video. I have a lot of things open on my computer. My computer is actually almost out of memory. I need to clean it up. So I think that's why I'm getting a little bit of lag. Okay, well, it's still going, so I'm just going to proceed. So it involves the actual phonemes, or the sounds that are making up words. So because we're still on the phonological awareness continuum, we are still talking about a skill that is really an auditory, it's a listening skill and a speaking skill. Now, I will add a little caveat to that in a moment, but before we do that, let's take a look at what phonemes are just to make sure that we're all on the same page there. So phonemes are those individual sounds. So how many phonemes do you hear in cat? If you count them out, at. So we've got 3 phonemes in cat. What about chop? If we count those out, ch, p. So we got 3 phonemes, but this one's interesting because there's 4 letters, but only 3 phonemes. So that's a nice tie that we can bring in as we are talking about this with students, that the number of phonemes, or the number of sounds in words, is not always going to match the number of letters, and that's where we get into some of these fun spelling patterns with digraphs and all of those sorts of different things. But let's take a look at the phonological awareness continuum. If it's still looking really choppy to y'all, will you let me know in the comments? Because what I am seeing looks a little choppy, so I'm not sure. But I don't want you guys to have a poor video. So let me know in the comments if it's choppy, and I'll try to fix it again. So looking at the phonological awareness continuum, if you joined for the first live that I did, we talked all about rhyme, stream quality updated. Okay, perfect. If you joined for the first live, we talked all about rhyming and alliteration. That is kind of our beginner level of phonological awareness. And then I did one that had kind of that intermediate layer, which covered sentence segmenting, syllable blending and segmenting, onset blending and segmenting. Sorry, I'm looking at comments. I think that my computer just fixed it, so I think it should be clearer now. And today we are at the complex end. We're all the way at the top end of the phonological awareness continuum, talking about phonemic awareness, which is really where we're wanting to move students to when we are talking about phonological awareness. We want to get them to this level because this is what is going to really help them as they are growing as readers. So that caveat that I mentioned earlier, that this was an auditory and speaking skill, it is, but phonemic awareness can and should be taught side by side with phonics and phonetic decoding. So some of the examples you're going to see me bring in today are going to use writing per se, or maybe manipulatives like magnetic letters, what have you. So I am bringing in a little bit of that phonics with them actually seeing the letters, but really we should be bringing these two things together because they're not a mutually exclusive skill, like, right? They are going to go hand in hand. That doesn't mean that some of the activities I'm going to show you, they truly do just focus on phonemic awareness without bringing in that side. So you're going to get both today. So be ready for that. I just don't want anyone to yell at me that I am bringing that in. So, strategy 1. Okay, it looks like we're good. Carolyn said we were a little choppy. Julie said 1 pause, but good now. Catherine said good. All right, perfect. So, strategy number 1. Let's go. This is a review. If you joined me on, I think I shared this one last week's slide, but I had to bring it in because I mentioned it was great for phoneme segmenting and blending. And it is like one of my favorite activities because there is zero prep at all for this, which a lot of phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, you don't really have to prep besides knowing what you're going to say. But I love this one. So the first one is break it down, break it down. And it's a little routine that I do with my students. And I always tell them, break it down, break it down. I say the word and you say the sounds. And what I will do is I'm going to say a word out loud to the students, and then they are going to use their arm to break down the individual sounds or phonemes in that word. So for example, if the word is chop, ch, p. And so they are going to go down their arm and give me all of those different phonemes or sounds they hear in the word. Another example, kick, k, I, k. And moving on to phoneme blending. So this is a very similar activity that I like to do with my students, and it's called slide, slide, slippity slide. And the way that this one goes, my little chant that I do with the students is slide, slide, slippity slide. I say the sounds and you make them glide. And so I will give them the phonemes or sounds, and then they are going to blend them or glide down their arm what the word is. So for example, if the word, I'm going to tell you the word in advance. I would not do this with students, but I'm going to tell you so that you know. If the word was hat, I would say at, and then they would blend it together, hat, on their arm. Now, one thing that might be helpful for students is that they repeat the sounds that you said before they tried to blend them on their arm. So if I said at, then the students would say at, hat, and blend them all together on their arm. So no prep work at all. Maybe just coming up with words on the fly, or you can have them already written down if you would like as well. But that's fun, and it is a really quick activity to build in phonemic awareness every day, every single day. All right, moving on to strategy number 2. Adding a tactile component. Now remember, I told you that we're not going to be mutually exclusive. We are going to bring phonics and phonetic decoding into our phonemic awareness practice because they really should be presented with each other. So adding a tactile component for phoneme segmenting and blending. I got ahead of myself. This one actually doesn't have letters, but I just got excited. With Play-Doh. And so I am going to grab some Play-Doh out while I switch over my camera so that you can see what I'm doing. All right. Perfect. All right, so for this, you can use different colors or you can just use the same. Sometimes it's easier just to use the same. So let's say that I am going to be working on a word with students that is going to have 3 phonemes. And now I want for them to be able to segment that word into the 3 phonemes that make up the word. Now, the word phoneme and all this isn't necessarily something that we have to be like super explicit with our students. We can call it sounds. But if I want them to tell me the sounds, all of the sounds that they hear in pot, then they can go across p, t, pot. And so that this can be a visual to help them break that word apart. Another way that we can use this is if we want them to be able to count how many sounds that they are hearing within a word, then I could give them the word pot again. P, t. So 1, 2, 3. So we've heard 3 sounds. I like to use this strategy. This is kind of bringing in writing a little bit, which is not our topic today, but I like to use this strategy with writing because if there is a sound in a word, then something is, you know, a letter in that word or a group of letters is making that sound. And so for them to be able to count the number of sounds is very helpful when they're writing so that they can go back and cross-check and make sure that they have letters representing those sounds that they're hearing. All right. Moving right along, we are on strategy number 3. So strategy number 3, we have talked a little bit about students being able to segment and blend phonemes, which is really where, well, hearing the sounds and maybe being able to count would really probably be where you'd want to start. Then we move into segmenting and blending. And after students are really, really proficient at segmenting and blending, we can move into the next step layer, if you will, of phonemic awareness, which is being able to add sounds into words. So for this activity, again, a no prep thing, I will just give students a word, and then I'm going to give them a phoneme that I want them to add onto the word. You can have them adding onto the beginning or the end. Something I probably should have mentioned is that most students learn and are able to recognize sounds and words in this order. They go being able to recognize, identify beginning, then ending, and then medial. So you might want to start this off with doing it as adding a beginning sound, or if your students are at the ending sound, wherever you are at, you can have them add these sounds in. So if I give the word mat, and I would like for my students to add a s sound to the end. So I'm going to tell them where I want it placed, and then they are going to repeat the word and the sound, mat, mats, and put it together. And so we are going to be able to add sounds to words very quick, low prep. You can have students, as they get better with this, that can choose the word and what sound is going to be added to the word, which makes that a really fun way to practice adding sounds onto words as well. And, of course, if we're adding sounds, then the next layer is deleting sounds in words. So a very similar thing here. I give students a word, and then I'm going to tell them the phoneme, the sound that I want them to remove. Now, I think, especially with deleting, this is my opinion, that it is very helpful to have that visual component, which is really bringing in that phonics layer. So I will give you an example of what that might look like. So if students have the word, I'll build a word for you, hits, and I want for them to delete the s sound, I would tell them delete the s sound or remove, and they can visually remove that and tell me what is left. Now again, this can be just done auditorily and verbally, which is really what phonological awareness is, but I like to sometimes add in this extra layer so that students can actually see as they are deleting sounds. And obviously, this can kind of be done as a word ladder activity as well, where you are either practicing adding or deleting sounds, and you're working from one word all the way up to another word. If you're wondering more about word ladders, you can check out my live from last week. We talked about word ladders in that live. All right. Moving on to strategy number 5, which is manipulating sounds, which is where we are wanting to get our students to in phonemic awareness. This is like the tippy top of the iceberg, and this is where we want to get them all. So manipulating sounds, the first thing, first strategy that I will share with you is bringing in word families. When I taught kindergarten, we did a word family every week. And this is a great chance to bring in some phonemic awareness here and playing with maybe that initial sound, starting off with initial sound, because that's where most students start being able to recognize. So if they have their own alphabet chart, then they can follow along with you, or you can use one that's maybe hanging on a wall in your classroom, whatever setup you have. And going through, and let's just say that we're using the at word family. I always tell my students that when we're doing this activity, we are not going to choose vowels. We're going to skip over the vowels as we're doing this. So we will just literally go through b, at, bat, k, at, cat, d, at, dat. And we can go through and play with changing out that beginning sound. Now, again, you could give them a target word that they are starting with, and they could use their alphabet chart to find that matching sound. So, for example, I could give them the word hog and ask them to change the word to dog, and they need to figure out what letter we're manipulating, what we're changing. So we're changing this is backwards for me, the H to a D. So having that visual there with a picture might help as well. But that's a fun little activity that you can do. And whenever a nonsense word comes up like dat or something like that, the kids just think it's so funny. So Another way to do it. This one's really just a song, but no prep again, is the bingo song. So you guys know the bingo song. There was a farmer, had a dog, and bingo was his name. Oh, going through and changing that beginning sound of bingo's name. So instead of it starting with a B sound, the B sound, maybe change it to a W sound, the W sound. And so we have Wingo, right? There was a farmer, had a dog, and Wingo was his name. Oh, and then just changing that beginning sound over and over again. It's super fun. It's super silly. You can also do this with your students' first names. You can change out the beginning sound of their name, and that is super, super fun. So my first name is Bryce. I can change that first sound, the B. Let's just change it to a D sound, D, Dryce. Right? And the kids have so much fun with that, and they're really just playing around with the sounds and words, and that's what we want them doing here when they're manipulating these sounds. We want it to be fun, we want it to be engaging, and for them to have a good time doing that. And then this is like a bonus because I told you I was giving you more than 10, and I've already more than 5. Don't forget about the song Apples and Bananas. So this was a song that I know that when I was little that we would sing all the time. I like to eat apples and bananas, but then you change out that beginning vowel sound of eat. So I like to I like to oat. If you don't know that song, look up Apples and Bananas song. It's fantastic. And again, it's just another kind of silly song that is literally working on the skill and phonemic awareness of manipulating sounds in words. So those are my 5 strategies for you. I hope that they are helpful. Again, super low prep, high engagement, which is what we want, where we want to be with these skills because they are so important and we want students to have fun learning all the time, but especially with something that's as important as this. Now, before we go, I told you there were some announcements at the end, and I've got a few of them, so I am going to kind of get through those. The first one is that I am hosting a free guided reading workshop. What this workshop is all about, we are going to be talking about things such as how to structure your literacy block so that you can fit in either guided reading or small group reading, small groups, whatever you want to call it. We will be talking about how to organize yourself, your time, your materials, all of those things, because we don't want our guided reading groups to feel kind of like chaotic and like we can't fit everything in. And then we'll be talking about a big one, behavior management, and how to engage and motivate your students who you are not currently meeting with so that you are actually able to meet with your small groups without being interrupted over and over and over again. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyways, I would love if you joined. I am not hosting this one on a Facebook Live because it's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be about an hour long. I'm going to do a live Q&A session at the end of that one. And the platform that I'm hosting it on can only have a certain amount of people in each session. There's a couple sessions to choose from. We may be adding on a third one. If you're watching this on replay, then we may have already added that third one. But you can check out the details at theteachingtexan.com/guided reading workshop. I can tell you now, one is on March 2nd, which is a Tuesday. One is on March 6th, which is a Saturday, and then we're toying around with adding another one, maybe on like Tuesday of that week after Saturday, but we will see how things go. So I would love to see you there, completely free, hour long. You'll get an email with your login information and all of that so that you can find the live when it's time to go live. Other thing I want to mention is if you would like to read more about what we discussed today, I have a new blog post up on the blog about phonemic awareness. You can find that at theteachingtexan.com/phonemic awareness if you're more of the reading type and would like to check that out. And last announcement is I told you guys last week that we just started a new Facebook group. We're running it for about 2.5-ish more weeks, about 2 more weeks. But we are gearing up for a 5-day challenge next week. It's going to be Monday through Friday. So if that's something you're interested in, we have literally like 650 teachers in this group. I am so excited that so many teachers wanted to hop in there. It's a great community. People have already been getting to know each other. But the good news is if you haven't joined yet, you're not behind because we haven't started the challenge yet. So I'd love if you joined. It's theteachingtexan.com/group. If you join, I am sending everyone this free Story Elements freebie. There's, I think, 10 or 11 different cards with all the different elements, things that you might find in a story just to kind of help with comprehension. And that's all of my announcements. And I am super thankful for all of you joining me today. I will be live again next week right here on Facebook at 4:30 p.m. Central Time, and I hope to see you there.